Hi everyone, I'm starting a new sketchbook today. I'm hoping to encourage my students to use them a bit more often this year. So I thought I'd share a few ideas and a few prompts here and show you what I'm up to. First of all, I'm just applying some water to the surface using a soft flat-headed brush. I'm going to be adding some ink into this in a minute, so I just need it to be wet enough so I can get some nice bleeds. This is Daler Rowney's Indigo ink. Love this colour. And these are great because they've got their own dropper that's attached to the lid. Makes it so much easier to use. So we're just going to drag the ink across the surface over both pages, letting the colour seep out. You don't really need to squeeze the dropper too much at all here. The ink just tends to flow out quite nicely. And you can see there's already some lovely bleeds happening where the ink's touching the water. So I'm going to use some indigo acrylic paint now. These Amsterdam acrylics are really nice, but any brand will be fine. And if you haven't got an indigo, then any dark blue will do. You can always add a little bit of black into your blue if you find it's not dark enough. So we're going to apply the paint with a palette knife, loading it up on the back and then gently spreading the paint over the surface, trying to merge it in with a little bit with the ink. Because the surface is wet, it's going to allow the paint to spread a little bit more easily, and you should also get some nice textured effects with it too. As we're dragging the paint down, we're wearing it off the back of the knife, and so that should give us some lighter tones towards the edge. We're basically aiming for quite a dark central area here, but also trying to make sure that it's still got some texture and interest in it rather than it just being flat. This is why we're working with both the paint and the ink and then introducing the water as well, which should give us some nice bleeds and runs hopefully. Because we're working across a couple of pages here, I'm trying to make sure that the paint goes into the join area as well, so that we're not left with any gaps. It could be that a bit of paint might seep through to another page by doing this, but that's okay. Remember, it's a sketchbook, it's not a finished piece of work. We're just here to have fun with it. I'm now starting to add a bit more water to the edges. This will keep the indigo a little bit wet, ready for when I add the cerulean blue watercolour. Still using a soft flathead brush to apply it. This stops me from being too fiddly, and it also helps spread the paint around a little bit more. What we're aiming for here is to start to lighten the tones as we're moving away from that dark area and more into the light, but we still want to make sure that we keep the marks free and loose, nothing too contrived. Add more water if you need to move any paint around or dilute any areas. And don't forget you can tilt your page as well to encourage flow and runs. Don't be too precious about it. Doing something like this is a great way to warm up, to get ourselves in the mindset of just adding paint onto a surface, seeing the marks, how they react with each other, etc. Because I'm working in a concertina sketchbook, I'm going to open out the pages a bit more here so I don't end up with any hard edges or an abrupt stop. This will leave me with options to attach the next thing to it, whatever that might be. As you can see, I've started here with the theme of January, so I might introduce some snowdrops or something next. So we'll see what happens. Using a foam roller now, mainly to dry this area off a little bit, but it's also great for softening edges. It does leave its own subtle texture marks too, although you can't see them that well on this one because this is mostly water. You'll probably see it better when you soften edges of paint with it. It gives you like a speckled mark, as if you've gently dabbed the area with a sponge. For now though, I'm going to continue to add to this background, making sure I'm happy with the texture and the marks and the way that the edges are fading into the light. But feel free to add to this in any way that you want. Remember, I'm only giving you a starting point here. By all means, copy what I'm doing. But if you have a flash of inspiration and you want to add something else or try a different technique, then please do. That's exactly what the sketchbooks are for. playing, experimenting and trying things out. If it doesn't work out, we can always paint over it and go again. Okay, so have fun with it. I'm not really liking this hard horizontal line at the top here, so I'm going to try and cover it up a little bit with a bit more paint and texture, just trying to extend it out a little bit. Okay, so the background is dry and we can think about adding the text to it. Now, if you've got beautiful handwriting, then by all means do this next bit freehand. But I'm going to show you how to use some white carbon, or you can get white trace down to do this, but it just makes this job a little bit easier. First, make sure you've got the right side of the carbon down on your surface and that you're actually going to get an image off the back of it. So many times my students have used this technique, and when they've taken the template off, there's been nothing underneath because they've basically used the wrong side of the carbon. So be careful, because it can be a bit frustrating when you've spent ages transferring an image. Place your template, or in this case the printout of the word January, over the carbon and then hold it steady while you use a sharp pencil to trace over the letters. You can of course use a little bit of masking tape to hold it in place if you're worried about it moving. When you've finished, just do a final check underneath before taking everything away. Now you can use the white acrylic pen to go over the top of your outlines to make the image stronger. Just be careful when using these pens though, because they do have a tendency to blob and you wouldn't want that on your surface. So press the nib down on a spare bit of paper first to get the ink flowing. That should get rid of any blobs and then you're good to go. Now I'm going to use a white drawing pencil, or it could be a white charcoal pencil, whichever you've got, to draw some snowflakes in and around the text. Feel free to draw as many as you like, different sizes, shapes, whatever takes your fancy. I'm doing it in pencil first because then if I make any mistakes I can just rub it out. Just be a bit careful though, if the white pen work it might still be a little bit wet and then you can end up smudging, so just wait for that to dry before doing this. When you're happy with the plan of your snowflakes, you're just going to go over them with the white acrylic pen like we did before to make them stronger and stand out. You can see the lovely textures and variations in the background here now. It's much more interesting to look at rather than just it being a flat area of blue paint. Remember, if you make a mistake, you can always use the indigo paint to cover over it and start again. Just make sure it's dry first. I'm going to add a little bit of snow now to this by splattering some white acrylic paint over it. The paint needs to be fluid and the brush needs to be stiff so that you can actually get a good spray off it. Finally, I'm going to add a little more white acrylic paint to the bottom here, just a bit more texture and to add a bit more contrast, and it'll also tidy up some of these rough edges. Doesn't really matter how you apply the paint. I'm just using the flat side of the palette knife again and then gently spreading it over the surface. Okay, so that's it for now. I'm happy to send you the instructions and templates for this if you'd like to have a go. So just pop over to my website or click the link in the description, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well so you get to see the next time I post a new video. So thanks for watching, I hope you've enjoyed it and I'll see you again soon.